Over the last 5 years, as the central government has carried out an unrelenting attack on our energy sector, those of us who defend it have been making one key strategic mistake. You see, we've made all the logical arguments in defense of the sector. We pointed out that it's the number one source of investment, of net exports, of R&D, that it's a leading employer of First Nations, that it pays tens of billions of dollars into our governments for schools, hospitals, and roads right across the country, that it is absolutely insane to unilaterally shut down our sector while the Americans doubled oil production in the last 10 years, and while the International Energy Agency says the world will go on consuming 60 to 100 million barrels a day for the next 2 decades, regardless of what we do here in Canada. We pointed out that every time we export a clean, green Canadian barrel of oil, it displaces dirty oil from abroad and ultimately reduces the global emissions of greenhouse gases. And we pointed out the incredible technology that our sector has invested in to capture, store, and utilize carbon rather than putting it into the atmosphere. We pointed out all of those logical arguments, but we have gotten nowhere with opponents of the industry. And I believe that there is a reason for that. While we've made the logical arguments, the irrefutable arguments of the head, we have failed until now to make the strong and defensible arguments of the heart. Until now. A rising star in Canada's Parliament, Jasraj Singh Halan, stood in the House of Commons to correct an ill-informed and malicious question, and in so doing, shed light on the human cost of this attack on our industry. Take a listen. I want to know what you think.
Does the honourable member agree that we should be beginning to transfer our, to diversify our economy and move away from fossil fuels as quickly as possible?
Yahoo! That's what this member's tweet was when the cancellation happened. Yahoo! She was cheering on the fact that people are being put out of work, that Canadians instantly are being put out of work. Their families are being devastated by this. And this member, embarrassingly, was cheering it on by saying Yahoo! This isn't the Calgary Stampede. Yahoo! Is supposed to be a good term for us. But this member celebrated the contribution of our students who are looking for good-paying jobs, internships, a livelihood, a future, and she was cheering on the fact that what's happening is going to contribute to mental health issues and suicides, frankly. And she said Yahoo! To that. I'm very embarrassed by that.
I can't imagine any way to put it better than that. Congratulations, Jasraj, on defending from the heart the industry that has produced so much good for our country. You know, that whole exchange made me reflect on the sort of malicious delight that some people seem to take in robbing a livelihood from workers who only want to get out of bed in the morning and pay their own way by putting in a hard day's labor. This is not just a bunch of statistics. This is a human tragedy. 100,000 people lost their jobs in the energy sector before COVID even began. 100,000 families without paychecks. University of Calgary produced a study showing that for every 1 percentage point increase in unemployment, there's a 2 percentage point increase in suicides as people lose hope, get addicted to drugs, overdose, and sometimes deliberately take their own lives. I was recently in Fort McMurray visiting the Salvation Army to look at the food kits they're putting together to try and feed the newly hungry, the housing efforts they're undertaking to house the newly homeless. As people right across the countryside in Western Canada are grasping for any way to survive they can. Say people who had good incomes and a decent quality of life only 5 years ago have no idea how they're going to pay the bills. Put aside your views on the energy sector, even if you think somehow we could get rid of oil tomorrow and replace it with some magical new energy source or manufacturing input. Put that aside and think for a moment about your fellow Canadian, your brother and sister, who is jobless, hopeless, and at this point, fearful that there is no future. Think about that human tragedy that is unfolding before you scream, Yahoo! Watch where you do your victory dance, because you might just step on the broken livelihoods of a fellow Canadian, or step on the dreams of someone who no longer has such a livelihood. And so now I speak to the people who have lost so much. I want you to know you have champions fighting for you on Parliament Hill. People like Jazz Raj, myself, Aaron O'Toole, our leader. We're going to continue to fight for a great renaissance in the energy sector, which has been down before, back under the first Trudeau, but which came roaring back in the aftermath. We as Conservatives are fighting for that kind of a comeback, to make Western Canada the comeback kid of Confederation. So have hope that the future is bright, even as difficult it is as it is to believe that today. There are many people right across this country cheering for you and bringing the message to everyone that we should have your back and fight for your future.